Phil, I want to go back to the beginning of your career. But before one of the first times that you were on the radar was when you joined Ozzy in 1986 and played on the Ultimate Sin record. How did you get that particular gig?
I auditioned for it. I auditioned for it. I knew Ozzy, I knew Sharon's secretary very well. From living in London, it was a fairly small community. Everyone sort of knew everybody. But one day, he saw me on a TV show that I was doing a live TV show. It was just working with some artist, and um, and I got a call from him right after then saying, "Hey, come and meet me at this wine bar in London." I said, okay. And I went and met with him, and he basically said, I'm looking for a bass player, and you're great on the show. You should come down and try out. So I went and auditioned just like everybody else, and I got the gig. It was quite surprised. My friend, my dear friend Randy Castillo, had just got the gig playing drums just a few weeks earlier. Randy and I have been friends from way before that point as well. We met and hit it off and became good friends quite some time before. So I knew that Randy was in the band, and the next thing I knew, I was in the band, and we were both in the band together. It was pretty magical. Um, but yeah, and prior to that, I've actually uh, been in a studio playing with Jimmy Page. It's a long story, but
Right.
he had been wanting to get into a rehearsal studio and just start just jamming and playing and running through ideas, and had called me and asked his tour manager Phil Carlo had called me and asked me if Jimmy had expressed an interest in me coming down and playing, and I said sure, of course. So I'd been doing that for quite some time. Um, It'd been months, and uh, when I got the Aussie gig, I had a bit of a dilemma. I wasn't sure what to do. Uh, and I asked him, I said, I'm not sure what to do. And he said, well, if you want to go out like right now, this would be the thing to do. We're going to do something, but it's probably not going to be for about another year and a half, which was about accurate because that's when the firm then came out um, with their first record, and that was a band that was going to be the firm. It was Chris Slade, myself. Well, we were playing together was Chris, Jimmy, myself. Even for a minute, Chris went out with someone. I think he went out with Dave Gilmore or Mick Ralphs. And during that time, we actually jammed with Rat Scabies from the Damned, which is kind of completely not what you think. But Rat was he was brilliant. He was very it was fun. We had a good time.
Big single off that record was a song that you wrote, "Shot in the Dark."
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about? Was that song completely done before you joined Ozzy, or did you write that while you were with Ozzy? Did Ozzy have anything to do with that song at all, or was it all you?
No, I had the song from before, and we did a cover of it in a previous band I was in, where they changed all the lyrics to it and stuff. But we never really released it. And then subsequent to that, I've been with three or four bands, and it was a song which I played for um, several different bands, and nobody really bit at it. Um, when I was in Aussie, I can't remember who it was. Might have been the label or might have been the producer, and they decided they wanted an extra song. So they started asking everybody if they had any songs, and they, went around the horn, and they asked the new guys. They asked Randy and asked me, and I had a bunch of things. I played in three songs, uh, and that was one that we decided to do. Um, Once we decided to do it, Ozzy did come up with some parts in it. Yeah, he came up with the solo, some of the solo melody stuff in the middle. Um, but we worked on it. We worked on it, and so we co-wrote it.
Yeah. Well, how much fun was it working with Ozzy during that period? I mean, that was a very successful record. You guys are selling out. I mean, he's been selling out arenas, for years. But you guys are like, out with, I believe, Metallica. Were your opening
Yeah,
band on that tour? What was
yeah,
that
we were
like
out
for
with
you?
Metallica, which was fantastic. I mean, it was great. They were really breaking big in America. They had actually created quite a stir in Britain prior to that. They were already a pretty big band. They were always on in the in Kerrang magazine on the front covers, and I'd been to see them a few times, and they were definitely unique. I mean, there was no one else that sounded like Metallica who was doing what they were doing. But on the uh, Ozzy tour, on the Ultimate Sin tour, I think is when they first really got um, a great presentation to the whole country. Um, and it was great. It was it was very different. We I remember seeing that when they already had their diehard fans who were out there, and you could tell. And the minute they got off stage, that fans would all change, and it was all these Aussie fans. You'd see a complete different demographic of the audience. But we had a lot of fun on that tour, and unfortunately, it didn't go well because of we took a break at one point, and they decided to do some shows in Scandinavia, and that's unfortunately when Cliff, um, you know, suffered his fatality, and it was tremendously sad. It was just awful. And I remember always thinking, how weird the world is that one completely unrelated event sort of resulted in us kind of making some cancellations to some shows, and then them accepting to do some other shows, and that's how fate works out, you know.
Yeah. Were you close with Cliff on that tour, being a fellow bass player?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, yeah, we spent a lot of time talking. He was a very quiet guy, but he was really cool. He was a very nice guy, and he was, sometimes he'd sit around we'd sit outside a venue, and he had his flared jeans at the time. He was the only person wearing flared jeans, and he would sit there and we'd talk, and he was cool. They were all cool. Sometimes Randy and I would traveled on their bus because that was pretty fun,
Yeah.
we were the young guys, so so we had fun with them. But yeah.
Yeah. Was it very disappointing that your time with Ozzy came to an end? Not too many years into your career with him.
No, it was kind of. I mean, I quit. I left the band.
Oh, you left the band?
Yeah, I left the band. There's all kinds of stories.
There are millions of different stories. I mean,
There's always stories about everything. But no, it, basically I was being asked to write a lot of material, and in a nutshell, I wasn't able to make a songwriting deal that I was going to be happy with, and conversely, that they weren't able to make a songwriting deal that they were happy with, um, and sort of went back and forth. I was trying to retain um, a certain amount of my songwriting publishing, and without going into detail, I just wasn't able to make the deal that I wanted to make. And at the same time, I felt that I'd kind of been around the whole circle. I'd done a great tour, had a great experience. We'd had a fantastic time, had some great successes. And right after that, I was being asked by Billy Idol to come and put a band together with him. So all of these things happening at the same time, one day I said that I'm going to move on,
yeah.
and I moved on and immediately went straight into Billy's band.
Yep. And
Um,
then and you were in Billy's band for a while, then Beggars and Thieves.
yeah,
And
after I worked on the Charmed Life album with Billy, and then I was in Beggars and Thieves. I moved to New York for a, couple of years on and off, and we did that. That was fun. And when I came back to LA, and then I got a call from Vince,
Vince
and
Neil, yep.
yeah, and him and his manager at the time, Bruce Bird, is sadly no longer with us. They called me up and said, "Hey, they'll put a band together for Vince," and so that's what I did. And I brought in a bunch of songs, and we ended up writing about half that record. So that
Yeah,
was
you
cool.
brought in some great songs. The Edge is one of my favorite songs from that record. That's a great song. The last song, Forever, is another great song.
Thank you.
Both songs that you co-wrote. Yeah. Were you
What?
disappointed that you? I'm
What?
sorry. Were you disappointed you weren't able to perform live with them? That you left shortly before they started playing out?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about that, but
Okay.
it's just some personalities in the band that sort of things kind of fell apart.
Hmm.
Bruce, his manager Bruce Bird was wonderful, and passed away unexpectedly, and it just seems after that happened, everything sort of seemed to fall apart a little bit, and I just decided to move on. You know, a lot of those songs were songs that I'd originally written actually for Ozzy that would have been on the subsequent Ozzy album.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't there anymore, I took those songs with me, and some of them ended up on Vince's album. So there are some parallels between those songs and Ozzy songs. If you listen to them carefully, you can sort of hear the derivatives, and that I was trying to write, that I was writing songs that were stylistically had some relationship to some of the songs that Ozzy already had as big songs. Again, I don't really want to get into detail for that, but it's a fun exercise to listen to them and see if you can spot it.
I'm doing that right after this interview. I'm gonna go right
Yeah,
to that Vince Neil record and listen to those songs
yeah.
and think about it. Well,